This is another episode of the Masters of Beautiful Achievements. What can we learn from them on how they apply natural science, systems thinking, and personal leadership to realize these beautiful achievements? My name is Alexander Princeton, and great you are listening to this episode. If you're looking for more inspiring episodes, check out my website mastersofbeautifullachievements.com. The link can be found here below. These conversations are made possible by our Patreon and Gumtree community, so I want to thank each of you for your monthly or even your one-time support. Your contributions enables me to create these amazing conversations, so thank you for your support. When you're not a member yet, click on the links below to join and be part of this amazing community. If you're interested in how I can help your business create beautiful achievements, choose one of my Gumtree offers on how you want to engage with me, or contact me directly via Scope Matters website. And now, it is time to enjoy the conversation with today's masters. Today, I have Ramon Vullings with me in the studio. I invited Ramon to talk about innovation. He says he's an innovation DJ. Now we're going to hear more about that, what it actually entails and how he's doing it. We're going to talk about sustainability, personal leadership, and why innovation or a different mindset is actually a good thing in our society with a lot of transitions that are currently happening. So Ramon, welcome that you are here today.
Thanks, Alexander. Great to be here.
For the listeners, could you tell a little bit about how you ended up in this innovation space and what it is you're actually doing?
Sure. From an early age on, I used to play a lot by myself with Legos, so combining all kinds of things. And that's actually a great metaphor for life, I would say, bringing multiple components together. Coming into higher education, I finally studied industrial engineering and management.
Yeah.
That's in Eindhoven, Fontis, it's called now. And that's absolutely a great place, also an anchoring point for me. I chose that education because I didn't know what to do exactly. I would not, I was not really clear on going for economics or philosophy or something. So I wanted something very generic. This absolutely proved to be the case. The year I started there was one teacher, Hans Kokhuis, a visionary teacher who started project work. So there were 6 streams, regular, 1 stream project work. So I signed up for the experimental track. And that was good because there was a lot of compensation in the project. So you could balance your points in whole projects instead of doing separate parts. And that was a wonderful trip. We were with a nice group of about 24 students, and we all walked through there. And still, some of these guys and girls are still my best friends to date.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, so it's been a great time. Also, living in Eindhoven, it was my first out of the house when I was 18, so I was pretty young. So I was done at 22. Then the market was so booming that all kinds of consulting companies wanted to pull you straight from from university.
Oh, wow.
So that was interesting. So we got an offer from Origin or something because we implemented a CRM, customer relationship management system, at CMARC in Eindhoven, Veldhoven, neighbors of ASML. And that was wonderful, but at last moment I decided not to go the IT route. I wanted to play more with processes, business improvement, strategy. So I applied at some of the larger consulting firms. They normally only employed university students, and I was from a hogeschool, so University of Applied Sciences. Yet, as demand was so high, there were exception rules. So I walked in there first at Ernst & Young, but they still wanted to have someone do programming for the first few years, and then you could go into consulting. I was in a big office, and there I was at the 3rd floor or something. consulting. Absolutely great. We worked on the information system of the royal family, which is absolutely magnificent here in the Netherlands, because they have a database which is so big. So it was interesting, but I thought, no, this is not my way. I need to work with Post-its and flip charts and whiteboards. And I saw the people working on the 4th floor, so I went to the boss saying, I'm on the wrong floor. I need to be 1 floor up, because that's where people are working with Post-its and markers. And that was not possible. I needed to stay there for 2 years. So I decided to end my job. Yeah. My parents got really nervous, and they said, "What? You just had a great job, and now you're already bailing out." And then after a few months, I managed to get one at Coopers & Lybrand.
Oh, that's an old one.
That's an old one, now called PricewaterhouseCoopers Management Consulting. And that was a fantastic fit. And there I indeed got to play with markers and Post-its and do strategy work and process work. And finally, there was an opportunity to go to Paris, to France, to support our consulting firm in terms of CRM, because I did that CRM implementation as the end of my studies, a sales management software tool implemented for a technical company. And then, as you have only limited experience, they put me in that department, and that was great, because so again that worked across all industries. I was already focused on multiple things. So I like government, I like healthcare, I like IT, I like telco, manufacturing, doesn't matter. And spent about 2 years, I guess, in Paris, and after that Munich,
which are really interesting technology hubs.
True. And now these days, especially. It's really interesting also to see. And now I also realize I worked too hard there. I should have enjoyed in München the English garden more. And I had a really nice apartment downtown of Paris, so we did enjoy that a lot. But doing it again, I would even take more time to explore Paris, especially if you're able to live there. So that was wonderful. And finally, my tour of duty internationally ended, and I came back to the Netherlands. And that's when I decided, okay, now what am I going to do? We were just being acquired by IBM. So Pricewaterhouse Management Consulting became IBM Business Consulting Services. I did that for 1 more year, and then I thought, am I going to pursue a career at Big Blue in kind of golden change, or are we going to do something more radical, more open? Because already in work with clients, I saw that the bandwidth of creativity and innovation in larger consulting firms is limited. So in terms of experimentation, in terms of looking for wider, alternative, better and more elegant solutions, there's a limited scope for larger consulting companies.
And can you pinpoint that why?
I think it's what a lot of larger consultancy groups do is they implement best practices from one area to another. They have a tendency to stay on the safer side to make sure that the large contracts with large clients don't really get messed up too much. And that's something that you see that they become just more careful, even if a client would love to experiment more or extend the reach. Sometimes the proposed solutions were, let's say, a bit more conventional. And that's when I thought, there is a limit in the thinking. Let's play it safe. Let's take a proven technology that we're going to implement at a client, which is probably great. If you're in a hospital or something, for some crucial systems, you want proven technology for sure. But if you're thinking about new types of care, you may want to also experiment to see if we can deliver new ways of better care for people, and also if patients themselves are fully aware of something.
What time are we talking about?
This is now, I think, about 20 years ago.
So it's around 2000.
Around 2000, 2002, 2004. The world has absolutely changed. I was already interested in creativity, applied creativity, business creativity. I did some courses. I did not even know that you could learn creativity. So fantastic. So you can learn that. It's easy.
You really can learn that.
You really can learn that. Yeah. Okay. So it's if you do enough of the skills, so you develop your skill sets. It's analogy thinking, bisociation. So you can do association, but you can also do bisociation. That's taking a totally different component. So association is you combine two things.
Yeah.
And bisociation is you combine multiple things and take a let's say a wild card into the mix, and then on a
See
more
what happens.
experimental way see what happens. There are various ways that you can teach yourself, your brain, to make more new synapse connections. And once you are in that flow, at a certain point, you will realize that you do not need creativity techniques anymore. So first, you start with using creativity techniques to stretch your thinking. And at a certain point, if you've done enough of those, you can make these connections way more easily. So that's absolutely an interesting thing that I've personally found out. It's a skill you can teach, and you can train, and you can develop, and then come up with new ideas.
Yeah, I always thought that creativity was something that either you learned intuitively or that sort of DNA. How do you call it? DNA imprinted, and then you're
So some people clearly have more talent there than others. There are also, of course, different types of creativity. You have people who are very creative with words. You have people who are artistic creativity. You have people who are more problem-solving oriented. So literally every engineer is a very creative person because they just figure out the solution. It's more the MacGyver kind of route you have there. And then you also have creativity in so many different, you name it. So you have the artistic part, you have the more, let's say, business problem solving oriented part. You also have running a family or running a school. So there are different types of creativity.
That's good to know that.
Yeah. So and I think everybody's creative because it's a matter of adaptation, that you can adapt yourself to a certain environment. In the beginning of my when my tour of duty ended for IBM, then in this case already, and back to the Netherlands, I decided to start for myself, to really saying also I was done with boring offices, because normally a lot of consulting work is at a industrial terrain in a large office building, which is absolutely boring.
Yeah, which doesn't inspire at all.
No, and I really wanted to go to old castles, to work in a museum. I had a dream. And then I decided to just start for myself. I think, okay, what can I do? I did that training on creativity so I can at least teach people to be more creative. And that's when Twinkling, my company, was born. So also to give a twinkle to the people's eyes and to do business in a nicer, better way. I started in training, facilitating. We started with a group people together because soon I figured out that alone is very alone. And we created a network based out of these creativity courses. A lot of people met each other. Many people look for that when they're at a transformational point in their lives.
Okay, yeah.
And that was absolutely interesting. So we said we saw a lot of people who were quitting their jobs or quitting their marriage or quitting whatever, something to enter a new world, a more creative, open, playful world, I guess. And also for me, I really wanted to play and learn more. We started a network called New Shoes Today because companies need new roads to travel, and to travel in new roads, you probably need new shoes. And that was really nice. And the today was also more in the moment. So that was an absolutely fascinating tour. We tried to challenge everything about organizations, and it was absolutely great fun, big lessons. Also sometimes incredible frustration because we did not agree. We did not have a common end goal. We just had a common starting point.
As a group.
Yeah. Because we started with 6 people. And finally that grew to 22 partners.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was, but there was only about 8 people generating 80% of the turnover. We would all give 10% of that turnover back to the central group. So we had a disbalance there and a lot of discussion. And that was absolutely interesting to see where we started. And also many cases, there was a deep point of frustration. We would see each other every month for 2 days or something, and then go out with clients in an experimental way. And after that frustration, always something beautiful new was born. So that was an incredible, frustrating process, but finally something nice and beautiful came out.
That is interesting.
That's absolutely an interesting struggle also.
Yeah.
But
that means that's also you were able to actually speak everything out together. Because otherwise you cannot move.
Yeah, but also there at the end, some things were, let's say, impossible to discuss, because we had a whole relation system in terms of finances and marketing and operations. And at a certain point, we decided that if multiple people would vote someone out of a role, that we would naturally transfer over, and that became a whole big discussion. So at a certain point it was enough. So it was a nice arc of tension. It's like a good rock band, I guess. It had its fantastic years, and at a certain point you need to see when it's enough. And that transferred over into another flip of the system. That was absolutely interesting. So with 8 people, we stepped out of that, and we started 21 Lobster Street. There's another collective. And there we tried to take the best components of this new organization into a new format. And that's where we flipped the system. And now I guess that there are way more. So this is, I think, 2012. So this is now 12 years ago, 2011 maybe. That we flipped the system, and we thought, okay, we have 8 people. They all have individual dreams. It has something to do about creativity, innovation, and change. Let's see how we can support each other on the back end. But let everybody, let's say, instead of all building new shoes today, we flip it around and we make this a service part, that we optimize some purchasing and some structure and intervision, so helping each other. So at that point, multiple people there were writing books, so to help each other on the back end, to give each other assignments, but let everybody take their own brand as far as they could go. So that's when I also launched RamonVullings.com, and also my speaker career. So I transferred from the training into facilitation, and then I figured out facilitation in terms of helping customers come up with new ideas and clients. And in the beginning of these sessions, there was always an hour of inspiration. And then I figured out I'm way more a sprinter than a marathon runner. So I need to do these 1 hour inspiration things and let go of this whole project kind of stuff and facilitation. And that really helped to focus. It was a tough process also to focus, chopping off what you really do, because in the beginning, as self-employed entrepreneur, you say you can do everything, and that means you can do nothing really that well. And since I focused on solely on keynote speaking, so especially in business and a bit in healthcare and government, that really propelled my career due to the focus, and also writing a book on cross-industry innovation. And that's called Not Invented Here. It's now in 5 languages, 70,000 copies sold. So that's...
I don't know if that is a lot. Or...
For me, at least, it's a lot. For me, at least, it's absolutely a lot. And also what I see is that now, because it's all over the world, it's also translated in Korean things.
That says enough.
Yeah, so, and it's great that also people pick up such a book, and then suddenly someone sends you an email or something. Yes, can you speak at our conference, whatever it is? And that was absolutely a magical moment that this flying wheel just started to run. And since then, that's now, I think a good 11 years or something that I'm focused as speaker. And that's, been going absolutely marvelous.
And as a speaker, you do tailor-made keynotes or generic?
Yeah, tailor-made, let's say 60% is the same and 40% is customized to whatever is the case, whether it's per sector, per challenge, per whatever. So it's great to be able to do that. There is a large database together with a colleague friend, Mark Helleven. We created a whole database of creative, cool examples that you can slice per sector, per challenge, and that really helps to launch your thinking. And now what I also see is that we used to have a subscription to these innovation and trend databases that you can combine things for your keynote. And now using, for instance, ChatGPT just to ask, give me some cool examples of where the sports business is doing things around food to optimize athletes' performance and how we could apply that to people on the street. And then ChatGPT just gives a wonderful overview, and then you start to verify these cases. And that's in terms of ideation. ChatGPT and all these large language models, because they literally scraped the whole internet. I think have an incredible database of absolutely wonderful examples.
And ChatGPT is not yet biased on the output. I mean, when you Google
it for sure is biased, but that's why whatever comes out, you just need to start. And of course, a wonderful starting point.
And what I mean is when you Google whatever the same string in Google already has a sort of
for sure. Yeah, that's more directed already.
So already selected what it is you're able to see. And sometimes you have to scroll 10 or 20 pages ahead to find something. Actually, that's interesting. Yeah, because they don't have the keywords right on their website or whatever. Yeah, and that's interesting. That ChatGPT is also now helping on ideation.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it's so impressive to see that we first thought that technology was going to support, like with the industrial revolution, it's going to make factory workers no longer useful because we have robots and everything. And we thought the last thing that we can at least have is human creativity.
Yeah, that's what all the trend watchers are sort of like hyping. The human race will survive because we are creative.
Yeah, and I think it's now proven. Generative AI can make wonderful images already, and pictures, and text, and movies already. So that part, at least that part of creativity, is taken over.
Will be taken over
virtually by ChatGPT. Yeah, will be. Not yet.
But then the next logical question is, what will be left for humans then?
I think also empathy and the real novelty, probably. There's a lot new to be gained. That's also my main premise for Not Invented Here, cross industry innovation.
Your book.
A lot of and the thinking that a lot of ideas are always a combination of other ideas. Mm-hmm. And so many of the components already exist. That's also what large language models do. They use components that are already existing, and they put a predictability to it. So
but in a way, that's also how a child learns languages.
Yes, and I think that's how everybody learns. Yeah. So a lot of new things are brought in because items come from another context into your context, and that's how you create new things. So the key is what's left of for humanity is probably empathy and love.
I don't know if computers are gonna. That's sort of like when we talk about innovation. For me, everything related to IT and we're just sort of taking a crossroad. What I see when you look at automation and artificial intelligence is a way of automating certain steps. Is that we are starting to disregard the human component in business, especially American companies. They don't like unions. They feel that workforce is a constraint. Mm-hmm. Whereas here in Europe or even in Asia, they see the workforce more as a key asset. Yeah. And that's an interesting way of looking at business. And so you see the automation going much faster in America because they want to substitute the human encounter. Let's use that word. But then if you talk about empathy and love, because if there is no workforce, then we're moving a little bit to economy. Who is there to buy? Because nobody is able to have an income. Mm-hmm. So that and here in Europe we have the trend that what if we lower the cost of labor and increase the cost of materials?
I think that would be a wonderful suggestion.
Because then you don't have to move into automation because you can use the human creativity, but also the human sensitivity. Yeah. and then you have a barrier on material, and then we move into sustainability and circularity because that's a more logical way of how to do business.
I think Prime Minister Modi of India did it really well in stopping some of the automation and IT projects because they were making people's work redundant. Linda, my wife, and I, we traveled for a long time in the New Shoes Today time. For 1.5 years, we traveled over the old Silk Road.
Oh, wow.
And then trying...
Literally walking.
Literally walking, not using airplanes. So literally walking, using trains, using motorcycles, using shared taxis.
And that was without kids.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely without kids. Later we went back with our kids to India and everything. It's wonderful in Thailand. But no, that was over the Silk Road. And there also... At the time,
what time was that?
That was 2009, 2000.
Okay, because it
2008, 2009, 2010. We came back.
Because
end
it
of 2000.
changed a lot already, I think.
Yeah, and there was also a financial crisis. So just at the point that the financial crisis hit, we were off.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, so that was absolutely an amazing time to be gone. It took us about 3 months to vibrate out.
Yeah,
because you're working hard and things. So and we saved some money, and then we started we started a little bit later, so we actually flew to Istanbul.
Yeah,
and that's where it really started, which is nice metaphorically because it's the border between East and West. Istanbul,
you have to cross
Constantinople,
the river.
Yeah, so that was a magical starting point, and then by train, and then directly into Iran. So we really. Yeah, that was magical to see Iran at that time also. So it was a little bit laid back. But still, there were protests, I don't know, against what we have now against America and the Zionists and things. But we were there using couch surfing, a platform that you could spend the nights at people's places. And we were at a really nice couple. And the guy, the man of the couple said, I need to go protest tomorrow at the main square. And I said, what are you protesting for? Yeah, we need to protest against America and Israel. And I don't want to because I don't care about that whole political stuff. But you need to do it because he was employed at the university. If they would not go to the square, you would be fired. So that's how you see also from that side, that's how they organize these things. And then you have a little bit of a radical group, and that's where the pictures and the videos are made from. So you see it's all charade. We were with a taxi driver who asked us, that was in Tehran as well. And the taxi driver asked us, are you Americans? I said, no, we are from the Netherlands. Okay, that's also good, he said. Well, America, that's great, because America, there you can dream something and you can just do it. And here, no, we have a government and it's impossible. And he said, all I want to do, what everybody wants to do in the whole world. At that point, it was Bush and Ahmadinejad. He says, don't believe Bush, don't believe Ahmadinejad. It's all politics. Just make sure if you have kids that they can go to a good school and have a nice life. And that's it. And I think that's a universal truth that everybody, wherever you go to, is just trying to survive and make it a good life. And also for their kids, if you have kids. So during those travels, we also went to India. In India, it's absolutely wonderful to see wherever we visited a hospital. We were there at a guest house, and there was a girl from Slovenia, and she traveled the world to everywhere. She was a nurse, and she says, everywhere I go to a hospital. And we heard that during breakfast, and we said, that's wonderful. Can we maybe join? Because she had already arranged a meeting at a hospital. And yeah, sure, we could join because she was being picked up. So we went along, and then before you reach the hospital, there's one guy, before you reach the parking place, who opens the gate. That's it. A very simple gate, opens and closes the gate the whole day. And you could see in his eyes that this was an honorable task because he was responsible for the parking. There was absolutely nothing there. You could drive onto that parking 6 other ways. There was no gate, but there was one gate, and this guy was opening and closing the gate. And that was also the similar kind of example that President Modi took in terms of automation, such a gate, because you could easily make that fully electric, self-sensing verification, and then this person would not be needed anymore. But the key is the person would not get paid at the gate officially, but everybody passes there, gave him a few rupees.
Yeah.
And this way, this man had honor in his life and was able to provide for his family. And I think that's also a crucial point. If we automate too much, and that's what we see now also in mental health care and everything, people are losing their sense of belonging or their sense of need. Why am I here? What is my role in the bigger picture, in the bigger system? And I think that really shows...
Because you're not belonging to anything anymore, and the system doesn't recognize you as a person, but just as a number.
Yeah, and you feel like, what does it matter if I'm here or not? For this man who opens the gates, it's crucial. Hey, he protects the parking lot or the hospital or something.
But also having the human encounter every day.
Yeah, also that, or helping someone, seeing, hey, something's wrong with your car. Make sure a million things happen in these interactions. If we organize the interactions out, that will lead to other problems. So I think it's part of the human condition to look for your reason for being, direction, and feeling that you can contribute something.
Yeah, I'm getting silent because when you think about that, and you've been a management consultant, and you described it already. I mean, most management consultants are more focused on efficiency and making it more cheaper, faster.
Yeah.
And in a way, you're rationalizing every aspect of a process, whatever that process entails in which sector. But that also means that you rationalize the way people interact in that process. And when you take out the human component, what is there left?
True. And also, it's strange that it has to do with, let's say, a capital kind of illusion, that large corporations should answer only to their shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that was absolutely bizarre, also in consulting work. So no, it for me, it was always more about a larger group of stakeholders. Your company is located somewhere. What does the neighborhood think of that? Or how does that work for all your employees? I once had a nice talk with my father, who used to run a considerable large truck repairing company, MAN trucks, in the south of the Netherlands. And at that point, it was in the news, social entrepreneurship. My father was a little bit cringy. He said, social entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that was around 2010, 2012.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He said, social entrepreneurship. Every good entrepreneur is social. Huh? I used to have 250 mechanics working in the shop. Huh? If one of them was in trouble or had been drinking too much on the Friday afternoon, and then they would drive home with their car and they drive them into the, how do you say that in English? In a ditch. Yeah, then I would be called and I would come with a tow truck to tow them out. My mother would then give this mechanic coffee to wake them up again, and then he would be delivered back home. And also, if someone was in financial trouble, they would be supported and everything. Yeah, he says that's totally normal. That's what you do as an entrepreneur. You want your people to be, well, and
because they are the biggest asset.
Also because but also because it's just the right thing to do. It's somehow also these people work for you. They're in their care. Somehow you also have the responsibility for all these families behind that. So that was absolutely, I used this example a few more times also in my keynotes. If we're talking about social entrepreneurship or what we have now, Rutger Bregman, who can write impressive books. Now it's moral ambition, which is great. Yet, it should be the norm. It should not be introduced as something new.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is, and that's also in the.
Or it's sort of like now in a sort of a polarization.
Yeah, and now it's clearly focused on in Amsterdam we have this area, the Zuidas, where all the high fancy office buildings are, and the lawyers are, and the management consultants are there as well, and everything. So it's more focused on that they should do the right thing. But it's something we've seemed to have forgotten a little bit, and that we're now returning back to.
Or we phased it out because it was too much hassle for the business model.
Probably also, and there were perverse incentives not to spend too much time on these things. So it's absolutely interesting to see everything old is new
but
again.
Then again, your dad was a family-owned business. I mean, you see this much more with family-owned businesses.
For sure.
I mean,
and you see also long-term investments are better suited at family businesses.
Yeah. Because I know I heard the story about Philips when he set up his business in Eindhoven. I mean, he was one of the few industrialists who actually set up complete urban areas for his employees, port accommodation, and he after the Second War he even opened shop up north in Drachten, just to have just to give the people the opportunity to have a job.
Yeah,
he had his own airstrip next to it because, I mean, he had to get there fast, and using a car in those days took I assume for him a little bit too much. But he also set up houses there for their employees, and it was for him so natural. I recall that, I think it was 10 years ago, that story emerged again, because how you can, as an industrialist, you can also, that was the example, you can also take care of your own employee and society and the community without achieving the maximum for your shareholders.
And it's, of course, it's healthy and good and probably necessary in terms of investment to make a profit, which is absolutely fine.
And you have to go without profit. Then you're not sustainable.
And even with inflation, it will just burn out. But the key there is to see that there is more to life than just financial metrics. And if you perceive that, and in larger corporations, especially what we see now, there are absolutely bad business practices. We have investment groups that produce literally nothing themselves. They just buy and sell companies, like, I don't know, HEMA here in the Netherlands, which is then being bought and then expanded and then being sold to the next investment group or something. But you do hollow out the insides of these wonderful brands and companies. And that's absolutely a bad business practice. And there are multiple examples of those.
London and New York are famous about that. Yeah,
and in larger corporations, that's where you also see the same thing as in society. The individual and people are no longer feeling a sense of belonging to a large group or something, because what's on the building is different than you get your paycheck from. That's another company and another sub company. So where do you really belong to? So I think the sense of belonging is crucial.
And you're managed in that way.
Yeah, true.
If something happens to you, HR's like 1, 2, 3, you're gone.
Yeah, and also a lot of company directors are not officially directors anymore. They are managers at a lower level in an investment fund thing. So they have the title of director, but all they have is a budget that they need to work towards. So technically, these people are no longer a director, because a director can, a CEO can actually take their own decisions, but many people are just CEO by name, because officially they're just managers, managed from a higher point in a financial state, which is also let's say killing for long-term vision.
Yeah, I mean, two companies come to mind, Danone and Unilever with Paul Popman, and I've got the guy from Danone in Danone France, who was sort of kicked out because he was pushing too much to regenerative.
Yeah, Paul Podman as well. Many of his ideas are now being reverted back. So what a shame. Yeah, what a shame. The new CEO is not so fond of Paul's ideas. Yeah. Paul's is now on a wonderful book tour, net positive, fantastic. So his ideas are great. His implementation at Unilever was already a good start, but unfortunately, a lot of things are being reverted again.
Rolled back. Yeah, but it's interesting because then. What is it? What is the real purpose of a brand then, and what is brand washing almost?
Brand washing, greenwashing.
Yeah, I'm just that's sort of, I want to stay away from greenwashing, but it's sort of like because I know, for instance, it's interesting. Oatly, the Danish company, these guys sold it to KKR, and then a lot of things started to cascade within the company and within the finance and the supply chain, and it started to lose its original values. I mean, these founders are probably very happy they sold the company, because with that money you can do other stuff. But that's interesting, because what I see from a lot of founders, those who sell their initial baby or the initial idea or the initial the brand that does good to, because I mean in the end you're finished playing and you want to do something else and you don't want to stay too long, and it's easier to sell out to a bigger company who wants to do something with it.
Yeah.
You tend to see that once they had a buyout, they are, because that's sort of like also like what we're talking about, belonging and sense, and they sort of have a basic income for the rest of their life.
Oh, for sure.
And then they can play around with ideas they already had, and now starting new companies with ideas, because now they have the financing and the network to get these things moving. So that's sort of like the good and the evil are always there.
So somehow they're flip sides of the same coin, and it's a shame. Like Oatly and a few other wonderful things, Ben and Jerry's, I think, for a part. That you see all these wonderful items that have started from an ideological perspective, and then too much money comes in, and there is sometimes it does not survive. But the good news is there are always new ideas coming up and new things, and also there are more and more fun. So I'm also happy. I speak at a lot of large conferences for insurance companies, for whatever, and it's wonderful to see that at multiple points you see, I don't know, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. You see, we had at a large insurance conference a scientist from the IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change. This actually now gets a podium, and it also means that the awareness is growing. It's slow, probably too slow, but at least it's there. It's programmed. And these are themes and cases. It's absolutely impressive to see, where before that there was just something.
And they were set away like, whatever.
Or maybe on the website somewhere we also do something about, I don't know, sustainable development goals and a few other things. But now it's absolutely programmed on these top executive forums. And there's discussion about that, and it's also really supported from the top. So that's great to see in many different companies, in many different sectors, that this is now on the agenda.
And do you then also see the growing awareness?
Absolutely, yeah, because some of the KPIs, the critical performance indicators, are linked to that. If you informed all your people about these things, and they are now really being used as steering mechanisms in a growing number of organizations. So I think that's a very positive sign that awareness is growing.
Yeah, and it's also a learning journey, because
for sure,
how the KPIs relate to the return on investment and shareholder value. Because
and also the problem with the KPI is people are going to optimize towards the KPI.
Yeah,
instead of doing the right thing. Yeah, so
true.
So there is also a bizarre incentive. It's nice to measure something, but you should have your baseline in order, and then it's nice probably to have KPI. But sometimes people forget the baseline and they just focus on the KPI. Yeah,
and then go back to creativity, because that's a nice bridge. Because once you lost track of maybe your purpose or the focus, then it's good to have an outsider like you coming in and shifting the focus back to, let's say, the main track. What is it you see with creativity or even with, as one of your books is one of your main themes is cross-sector innovation.
Yeah.
How do you open up? So basically, two questions. How do you open up people to see that the grass on the other side is not greener, but is interesting to learn what's happening there?
Mm-hmm.
And the implementation part, because it's inspiration is easy.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Grasping and internalizing it is the hardest part, because once that happens, the implementation becomes easy.
Not always even easy, but probably doable.
Yeah, I mean, with easy, I mean you have a
path. Yeah.
You know which direction you want to go, and that means you have to make tough choices. It's also with personal leadership, even within sports.
Yeah.
If you decide you want to move in that way, you will come across things that requires to make a choice.
Yeah.
And that has always its own consequences.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that, and how do you help them transition? Maybe let's start with that.
I normally use cool examples. So that works. So a lot of people. I do a lot of work in Germany for high-tech startup companies and conferences. So it's funny. And startups are always really good at taking components from other sectors, because they say we are now you name it, Airbnb for office spaces. Or in Belgium, we have an Airbnb for warehouses. Which is an absolutely fantastic idea, because everybody knows Airbnb, or virtually everybody knows Airbnb, at least in the context there. And then we say, we do the same thing, but then for warehousing. And then people say, what? And so, yeah, you can easily just select in which area you need warehousing. Supposing we have a startup and we make teacups or something. And we have created or ordered 1 million teacups. Where are we going to store these teacups? Then you say, then we need a storehouse facility. And then you can go to the Airbnb of warehousing. So you can select a region. You can select you need forklifts. You can select how high should the ceiling be. Should there be racks in there, yes or no? And that allows people... entrepreneurs who have storage facilities, who may have some space left or whole total buildings open, to put that on that website and to allow them to rent out their space.
That's smart.
Now, fantastic. So that's an elegant example. Everybody gets it from the beginning.
They still survive.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay,
especially
the thing is, with a lot of startups, I think.
No, but this one it really grew during Corona, when production was being halted, and also with the beginning of the Ukraine war. That production was halted, so a lot of warehouses were running empty for certain materials, but others were picking up again, especially now with the package delivery and you name it. So that's an example. Which really works to show people, that's nice. The transfer one approach from, let's say, housing and hotels, where the Airbnb is normally located, into, in this case, warehousing. It's a classical example. Startups do it all the time. We are the Uber for office chairs. We are the Airbnb for X, Y, and Z. So that's easy. On a business model, you already see that it's relatively easy mentally to transfer approaches from one area to another. There are an incredible amount of wonderful examples, and everybody has an idea. I was yesterday at the National Pharmacists Conference in the Netherlands, and a lady after my speech came up to me. I also have a nice example, she said. We are running our pharmacy based on the principles of a hotel. So everybody who works at my pharmacy, she was the chief pharmacist, had hotel training. So in terms of welcoming people to the pharmacy, in terms of, and they wanted to be the best in terms of service. And apparently also in customer satisfaction, they were the highest in the region, because they were rewarded best for customer service. Because a hotel, she says, is always focused on service. A hotel will always say what's possible. They will never say what's not possible. And that's the same thing we do in the pharmacy. So it's just, this strategy really works for our pharmacy. So these are really nice transfers. And I also explain there are a lot of innovation power is put in your product, your physical or digital products or services, whatever you do, whether you do products or services. There's a lot of time and innovation attention to that level, your primary level, what you really do. Yet for cross-industry innovation, there's a lot to be gained if you go a little bit deeper. Your secondary processes like, I don't know, HR or invoicing or things. There's a lot to learn from other areas. Business models, partnerships, technology, culture, leadership. You can learn a lot from other areas. And that's interesting to do also a little bit of research on, our primary service, it's tough to... radically do something new.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the way we organize ourselves, there's a wonderful opportunity to learn something from another company.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting route that a lot of people are opening up now, saying, we could organize that totally different.
Yeah, and then the purpose changes also. Then you get a better. I mean, it has also to do with leadership and how the employees perceive it and how the customers perceive it.
Yeah, and also
the customer journey.
Yeah, and also if you talk about innovation, people have a feeling it always has to be around technology and high tech, and now everything to do with AI and drones.
That's what most people think. Yeah.
So the key there also is to see that you can do very simple interventions, which make already a world of difference in terms of making innovation happen. I also show people some easy, between brackets, examples that you can do yourself if you are in a highly regulated business or in a nice example is True Doors. True Doors is a company that makes doors, like we have here, a door, in elderly care homes. Elderly care homes, a lot of people are living there, especially people who get older a little bit, so they transfer from their house or apartment into a care center. They have their own little apartment there, so their furniture is in there. But the hallways are, especially in the Netherlands, nice and clean, and all the doors look the same. And what they did there...
Then when you a little bit get dementia, you start to
you
figure
start
out everything is the same.
Yeah, everything is the same. You feel a little bit like, oh, where am I? If you walk through the hallways, which is my door now?
I always got lost when I was visiting my grandma.
Yeah, or like same thing in hospitals or something. And what they did was absolutely wonderful. It started with someone sending off an intern with a high resolution camera to the old houses where these people used to live. They made a picture of the front door and they made a sticker of that picture and they stickered that thing on the front door of where these people were now living. So if you walk through the hallway, you suddenly recognize your own front door. And that's absolutely a wonderful way that people... these stickers cost about €50.
And what from their original house where they used to live before they went into the...
Bingo. Yeah, where they had their childhood, but normally the house they lived just before they went into the elderly care home. A lot of people have been living there virtually their whole life.
Yeah, that's personalizing.
Personalizing. And then I was at the pharmacists meeting yesterday. I said, you can also take the next level to that, because some people then go into their new apartment with their now stickered old front door. Then you see your own couch and things. And then there's a kitchen there. Normally these kitchens are nice and white and everything, but people forget what's in these new cupboards. So what people now started to also do is make a picture of what's in the cupboards, whether the peanut butter is or where the pills are, and then sticker the insides of the cupboard on the outside of the cupboard, that people see, it's like a glass door that you can see what's in there. So these are small interventions which have mega impact.
Yeah.
And that's also when I try to help people become better idea DJs. So that's my mission, is that we should be mentally more flexible, taking good ideas from other contexts and using that for somewhere else. And my definition of an idea DJ is someone who creates impactful and beautiful combinations which add value. Impactful means that they are real. They need to add value, not just shareholders if we talk about commercial things, but a larger group of stakeholders. And beautiful, the beauty is there. Aesthetically, I like aesthetics.
You're an industrial engineer.
But the beauty is in the elegance of a process. We talk in consulting, we talk a lot about operational excellence. And I like to propose operational elegance.
That's different.
Things just work, that you enter your data one time and it flows along with you. My father is in the hospital now quite a few times, so he has his little bracelet with a scanning code, and every time we get somewhere they try to scan the code, or they do give us a new form to fill out, and I think this form is not to fill out or to verify that we have the right patients here. this form is just a silo of an IT system that's not connected to the other systems. And
sometimes that's good.
Sometimes absolutely good, but sometimes also it leads to error or something.
Yeah.
So that's not a nice process where the whole data flows along with someone. Same thing as, I don't know, booking a train ticket or even if you still fly a flight.
But the interesting thing is about Elegance is that it relates back to human interaction.
That's it. And also...
Because I had an encounter this week where I was visiting a client and I wanted to have a shared bike.
Mm-hmm.
And the silo was broken and there was a phone number. I was redirected 5 times and then somebody hang up. And it's like, I'm here as a client, as a customer, something is not working and nobody is willing to help me.
Yeah.
And I know I think it was Suppos in the US.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the correct example, but that the customer service people would actually help other people rebooting their computer and whatever not related to actually the core.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because you want to help the customer. Yeah.
And with Elegance, it's actually you want to be helpful, and helpful is a contradiction to excellence.
Yeah.
Because helpfulness does it as long as the process works and what happens on the front end, nobody cares.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
That's a hassle. That costs.
And I think the caring bit, that's the crucial. That's if someone cares about something.
Yeah.
People will. It's the same thing. If you, I don't know, you're in a restaurant, you sit together in a restaurant, and someone's scarf falls on the ground, and the waiters, someone comes by, trying to serve another table, but they pick up your scarf, put it over your chair without you even noticing, and continuing. That is caring for something.
But to be a good innovation DJ, between brackets, as you mentioned it has to do with also having care or purpose or a mission or whatever you put it in, that you want to improve something that has impact, because once impact is connected, it's connected to sort of a higher purpose.
For sure, the impact. And I also define that as something, let's say, inherently good. So the impact, of course, you can have negative impact for sure, but it should be, in my definition, I would propose positive impact. Positive impact, that means also, people, planet, profit. If it's a commercial company,
profit is good.
Yeah, so people, planet, profit, which is fine. So, but not only profit. So the people and the planet should be equally as important in that mix. So the perfect mix matches all three. So there is the impact for sure, and then the value that's being created, and the elegance. The elegance.
But this goes contradictory to operational excellence.
For sure, so that's why I say operational elegance.
But that's sort of like an interesting friction. In our introduction, we also spoke about what your experience was with management consultants, and there was not enough leverage or leeway to go beyond the box.
Yeah.
Because if you stay in the box, you want to excel, you want to optimize it, you want to lower the costs and everything that's related to that. And if you go out of the box, you introduce risks. Unknowns,
temporarily inefficiency to reach a higher goal, or you need that.
And it's interesting because I can imagine that people that are listening to you and you're like operational elegance, and they're like whatever, because that is also a mental shift you need to make from the way they have been educated. I mean, the MBAers, I don't know if that is predominantly also the people in your audience, or it doesn't really matter, but I noticed with a lot of people
I think at least 20%.
Yeah, those who have a business administration background, and there are a few MBA schools who are already doing it differently, but that's just a happy few. The mainstream is just focusing on excellence, rationalizing everything, because that is what the economy defines a business administration, and because I counted them also in my keynotes, and they're like whatever, that's beyond beyond the scope, beyond what I can stretch with my mind. And yet those are the ones who are at the controlling the dashboard and
setting
setting the target,
setting targets, setting KPIs. It's easier in a lot of companies. Follow the money. Then you can easily see what drives people, or what drives service levels, or what drives output. And there is more and more awareness, I guess, on the end of growth. So growth for growing purposes for companies. Slowly, people are at least trying to grasp that that's not the highest ideal.
Exponential growth has an end. Yeah.
For sure, and as you stated in the beginning, it would be great if we could figure out a tax on raw materials. That would be great, so that we could lower labor costs and make sure that the materials that you use, that we don't need to mine additional things.
Yeah,
I believe now clothing available in the world, we can clothe the next 7 generations of people.
Already with what we have.
What's already available. And now, of course, a lot of clothing is being burned or being put in major piles or something, or dumped in the Sahara.
Because that's fashion. But that is an awesome number of polymers, natural or synthetic.
Yeah, so that's bizarre. So I would say we could now easily stop all production of clothing. The problem is that Bangladesh, part of the economy, is totally reliant on that. So
a large part,
and other things. So we need to get systemic transitions to make sure that we take this delusion out of the system, because it makes no sense to keep on also giving each other gifts that are being thrown away or something. It's a total waste of time, effort, and especially natural resources. So systemic change is absolutely needed.
And because one question I wanted to ask is, what is your definition of innovation?
It's simple. Creativity is coming up with ideas. Innovation is implementing good ideas. So the baseline is that there is a benefit to the world.
And invention?
Invention is actually coming up also with I think invention is creativity and innovation combined. Then it's there. Then the invention is there. And for me, the invention still has a more, let's say, technical feel to it, but maybe that dates my age or something. So invention for me is in many cases in the physical realm.
Yeah.
Somehow my mind links that. And creativity is coming up with ideas, and innovation is implementing these good ideas.
Okay, because just wanted to have that also, because a lot of people have a different definition of innovation and invention. Sure. I also know that we share a very common interest in inspired by nature. Mm-hmm. For the mainstream, that is the biomimicry term, although that is also very broad. Inspired by nature, uses physics, biology, and green chemistry based on biology, which is bacteria, algae, fungi, plants, and animals, including insects. And we also have a new group, at least from my perspective, viruses, because they are also extremely creative.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And have done so many in innovative things with all the other species. What is your interest in that space, and how do you transfer that into your daily job?
Yeah, I'm absolutely a sucker for biomimicry. I think I'm industrial engineering and management. I'm officially an engineer by training. So I think the most elegant constructions, physical constructions, if you look at what Gaudi has created, these are also buildings inspired by nature. So
they have a lot of elegance.
And everything comes down. Actually, everything is Madrid or Barcelona for these things. So that's absolutely wonderful to see. So my heart really beats up for that. I've been on a mission in terms of converting the physical, because a lot of examples, which are great, the Speedo swimsuits made based on shark skin, they were banned from the first Olympic Games because they gave an unfair competitive advantage. Wonderful stories. Mainly, many of the stories for biomimicry are in the physical realm.
Yeah.
The key is to transfer these things into, let's say, more process and management realm for me. That's sometimes, like, I think your example of viruses is nice. They use strategies. Viruses, they latch onto something and they mimic themselves as something else. Wonderful creativity.
They iterate extremely fast, and then suddenly they have a key.
And they don't kill their host. The good zombie virus does not kill its own host, because that would be not beneficial for the virus. So these are wonderful things that you can also apply in software, that you can apply in management practices. You also have TRIZ, the TRIZ system. And, TRIZ system is based on a gazillion number of patents. Some put in a large matrix, I believe by Russian scientists.
Yep.
They made an incredible matrix of all patents and how they apply. And that also works really well, again, for physical things. Put something in a gas form, in liquid form, or solid state.
Yeah, it's a very problem solution.
Yeah, it's a problem, and also hey, you need to make, I don't know, a flexible office chair that does not pull together like a pudding. So what is the best balance there? In which other area can we find a rubber or a different kind of material? So the TRIZ system has a lot of, let's say, the physical kind of properties based also on the biomimicry. If we see now what's being 3D printed, if you let an AI optimize the strength of a bridge or something, 3D printed, it looks more like a bone structure. Or now these are wonderful things that we can use in engineering and physical environments. If we talk management, the virus example is a nice one. How ants organize themselves is wonderful. And I think we are just at the beginning of trying to understand. We are nature, we are humans, we are part of nature. So some people have the illusion that we are separate. We are nature.
I mean, we're full of bacteria, viruses, and fungi.
We are totally dependent on that. And also the climate crisis. Yeah, there is a crisis for climate and for nature partially, but it's more a humanitarian crisis, because the cockroaches will certainly survive. The human race will not.
Because for me, the climate crisis is a biodiversity crisis, and the climate is an outcome of the biodiversity crisis.
And we also already see that now with insects. So there are hardly any insects left.
If you travel by car, your car screen is empty.
Yeah, and that is a very worrying sign. So
I still remember in the 80s that you have to wash your car screen because it was full of insects.
Yeah, true. And people had the most crazy idea that you should wash your car screen with urine to make it easily removable. So
really?
Also a natural solution to a natural issue at that time. And also the bees. So if you see the levels of bees and the types of bees that we
the insect kingdom is collapsing very fast.
Yeah,
and that cascades towards animals and plants. I mean, there are already now plants moving towards self-pollination because of the lack of insects.
Yeah, which is incredible to see the adaptability of nature in such a fast pace, because
I don't know if that, I mean, it has already experienced that for 10 years, I assume, and then they started to think that they should adapt a new strategy. Yeah,
which is marvelous to see. And also there, as human species, we can learn a lot from wider nature, biomimicry, mimicking nature in terms of what we can do there. So yeah, for sure. And I think we are just at the forefront still of what's possible.
I mean, it's inspiring to have those examples, and what you mentioned is the operational elegance, and what we mentioned before, the drive still for operational operational excellence, and taking out the human component in business. Then it's interesting that if we start to learn how nature works, it sort of challenges how we interact as a human species.
For sure.
Because it's sort of like, I mean, are you then in a way, that is the question, are you then in a way also helping people to reconnect and find their belonging again in a more disconnected world?
I don't know if I'm really helping the people there. I'm showing some examples
from an inspiration.
Yeah, from an inspirational perspective, for sure. There are, thankfully, a lot of really nice examples. The example that if you use technology and 3D printing and AI, that you finally come back to nature, how nature has solved things. I think that's a very elegant way to see these worlds will collide again. A neural network looks way more than a brain than a classical binary computer.
Yeah, it looks like galaxies also.
Yes, so you see fractals. Nature is built up from fractal design,
which is an amazing. If you dive into that, it's just
So the Fibonacci sequence, So it's great that finally, even if you go technocratically all the way into technology, that you finally end up at the same point.
That's interesting.
Back to nature. And we see these arcs in multiple domains. You see them in the engineering domain, but you also see them in, I think, in human sciences and how we interact. An ant colony, everybody has a role. There is no one checked out or anything unless you're a dead ant. But everybody has a role. And that's interesting to see. So that's also for the human race. It's crucial that we really think about giving people a role.
That comes back to what Modi said about the guy who was.
Yeah, and also it comes back to some of the organizing principles of our healthcare system, because we now have a tendency to outsource care to professional caregivers. But the most professional caregiver, we call them mothers. That's a system what's already totally in place.
And grandmothers.
Yeah. And also in terms of caring, also in the Nordics, that you see how visionary they work around that. Also fathers have a year paternity leave. There is a reason for that. And even that you can calculate that economically, that it will lead to less problems later on in life. So we need to get that anchoring in place. For so many people, because we are now repairing things also in mental care or something for people who have been deprived of things in their younger years. Somehow, at a certain point, we need to stop the influx of people who are mentally deprived or damaged or whatever by getting the basics right. And then in probably 2 generations, so we need to think multiple generation, we can solve structural problems.
Yes, because when you mentioned that, I remember the stories. Like I think it was one of the things when you're whatever. I know a conversation between Bruce Springsteen and Barack Obama. They tend to be very good friends, and they share a common background because both dads were not there.
Yeah,
and if you look at the most entrepreneurs, it's in the U.S., which is always laid under a magnifying glass. That's where you hear the most stories from. They all tend to have a youth that is not so beautiful.
Or classically beautiful,
Or classically beautiful. But I mean, Elon Musk and there's so many more. They have a youth that's sort of scratched or had some dents. And then the entrepreneurship was sort of the higher end of they decided they have to take control of their own life. And then they move towards entrepreneurship and sacrifice things just because of the pursuit.
Yeah, probably.
Which is a requirement to be an entrepreneur. You have to focus.
Sacrifice for sure. It takes time and effort. And I think everybody wants to please their parents. Virtually every child wants to please their parents.
Which is imprinted, yeah.
Yeah, if the parent is not there or was not, let's say, available or mentally unavailable or something, you compensate. You find other ways of doing that, and some take that to the extreme. And in the meantime, forgetting that they're probably, if they have kids themselves, doing the same thing to their kids. If they're mentally or physically unavailable, especially in the US, it's cool to make long hours. Even though not so efficient, but many people make long hours. That means that you are away from home long times.
Yeah.
And then we get this whole charade in terms of nannies and care homes or early deliveries at...
or even not being at home and the kids have to figure it out themselves.
These kind of things, that's also...
I like science fiction. The good thing about science fiction is that it allows you to follow a certain narrative. Very focused, very thin, and then see how that narrative plays out. And one of the things that Captain Picard has a new series, and I like him from Star Trek. But the interesting about Star Trek is that suddenly the world became united, and then they solved all these sort of human issues. And it's sort of like the humankind transcended into a, let's say, a global species with respect towards each other. That's sort of how Star Trek is narrated, and that is sort of like in contrast to what we see now. We're going to harvest the moon. And there is a really good science fiction movie also about when the moon goes away. It does something to
if the moon goes away, the Earth will stop, huh? Yeah.
I don't know if that is true, but we'll miss the monthly cycles and
but also the magnetic forces that move the oceans. This whole ecosystem is based upon that, at least partially based upon that magnetism.
So when we'll start mining the moon, we'll lose mass, and we know from quantum mechanics that even though it's very little, it will have had on its surroundings. So the
maybe only in a few million years. But if you adjust the orbit of the moon slightly, then we will see finally effects. Huh?
Yeah.
Now, it's of course also possible that by natural causes, the moon is already on a slowly ever so slightly deviating trajectory. Huh?
Already?
No, I don't know. Huh?
I mean, it might be. But from the impacts from all the...
could be, because the whole universe is still expanding very slowly. Because it's now for a long time.
It's still moving in all directions.
So maybe, I don't know, I'm just making here an assumption. So technically the moon could be already on a very slight, it could be a millimeter every million years or something. But then in a few billion years,
it will
still have its impact. The question is if this vague Homo sapiens side tech is still there.
Or I don't know, maybe we're called a different species. We're not Homo sapiens anymore, and we're turned into something different. No, I mean, if you look from the history of the origin of the Homo sapiens, let's use that word. I mean, we are derived from many different predecessors, and they started to merge together, which is now the human Homo sapiens sort of predominant at the moment. But you still see differences around the world. So. Are we still Homo sapiens, or are still within the Homo sapiens? We still have certain subdivisions. So, maybe we merge with something else. The last thing there was a publication that an algae was able to acquire a certain bacteria, which you just found out, and that happened in the last 20, maybe 50 years. That those two merged together, and the algae was able to integrate the bacteria into its own cells, and that was sort of like evolution is sort of also a coincidence happening on the right time, the right moment, and then
in the right circumstances,
and it was allowed to flourish. And when you're talking about when we're talking about the organizational structure of nature and humankind, that's interesting how we gonna perceive that. I mean, what you mentioned with Rutger Bregman with his new book, what was it?
Moral ambition.
More Ambition, and we have very similar books on that. Will we humans transcend from a egocentric kind of species to the other hype word is ecocentric, about more instead of me towards we, like they have in Africa, Asia, or South America. Because me is a predominantly Western concept, and that has moved to America because we immigrated a lot to that, and a lot of other cultures look at the West because they have been so dominant. And I want to use the word successful. They have been.
No, we had gunpowder.
No, the Chinese had that too.
No, for sure. Huh?
But the Chinese never in that time embarked on a colonialism approach. That was interesting. They were satisfied with what they had at that time.
Yeah.
And there was for them no need to expand and conquer. Yeah. And the West Europeans decided that was an interesting endeavor to pursue.
I think also in line of this discussion, Elon Musk's remarks on, I don't want to be the biological bootloader for an AI.
Oof. So that's a lot of words.
That's a lot of words. Huh? So a bootloader is a little thing that runs to start up a computer.
Yeah.
And he said, we as human race need to be careful in this whole artificial intelligence growth, that once we create something sentient,
what is sentient?
Sentient is something, a system that is self-aware.
Yeah, so synthetic.
System. Yeah, synthetic artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
The question is, if it's true intelligence, is it then still artificial? Because if we maybe, this is a science fiction idea. Huh? Humans had to evolve at the point we are to be able to create computers, to create neural networks, to create artificial intelligence, and finally aware, so true artificial intelligence. And Elon Musk nicely said, I do not wish to be a biological bootloader, so that the human race was there, that it stops, because then the AI takes over, and then maybe the human race gets extinct, and then the next thing that's there, alive, between brackets, is a AI. And he said, we need to prevent that we are only, between brackets, a biological bootloader.
Yeah,
I thought, that's an interesting science fiction thing, because you could write a book about the whole history of the universe and the world and humankind. And then finally we invent computers and self-thinking systems and an AI. So this is a dystopian kind of future that's being sketched. But it's absolutely interesting.
Although it's closer than we think at the moment, if you see how it's exponentially.
Large language models are nowhere near self-aware, so they are very good at predicting things based on what's already there.
We need one or two.
Yeah, steps. We need a few more steps, but these are crucial. Same thing with self-driving cars. So we are close, but still no true self-driving outside of clearly marked path highways and inner cities. So also there, I think that's an interesting mental thinking exercise. Oh wow, if this is true, but this is of course a dystopian kind of future, so that would leave finally humans extinct or something.
No, the Matrix is very close to that.
Yeah.
Humans were used as energy source.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we produce, but we produce enough energy to power electric systems.
Yeah, so these are absolutely wonderful thinking activities to, the Matrix is of course an incredible classic movie, or the movie Her in this case. So these, and that's also what Yuval Noah Harari also has written in his book Sapiens, where we come from and why. Because the Neanderthals were much bigger and stronger than the Homo sapiens. So why didn't the Neanderthal win from the humans? Apparently because the humans had stories. They could organize themselves around stories. And they could organize themselves in larger groups to do something, or in this case, attack Neanderthals.
But did we never interbred with them?
Also, yeah. There were crossovers and everything, but finally the dominant species became humans as we are now. So I think his case and his book is a really nice example. And he says the only crucial difference, because there were also Neanderthals that could make tools or anything, so it was not about the tool making and everything, but it was especially around gathering ourselves around stories. We are here in a podcast today. It's also a story. So humans are really good at creating stories and then rallying other people towards those stories. So all ideologies are based on that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was just what I was thinking. If you break things down to who we are, and then we are a Homo sapiens if you go from a biological perspective. And the main key advantage, the main key asset humans have is storytelling. If we highlight that out and then we talked a lot today about how create purpose or cross innovation and how to translate that into your actual business. But if we peel off all the elements of an onion, and this would be true, then it becomes interesting also from an AI perspective, or because AI is using language models from us humans, which is the storytelling part, but also from your operational Elegance. I'm always having the operational accent, but that's sort of
drilled.
I'm completely drilled in that way. I've been a management consultant for 2 years, so I've that's sort of imprinted also in me. The operational elegance, it's about human encounter.
Yeah,
and if that is the essence of being an Homo sapiens, why are we doing the other stuff? Why are we so busy creating a bookkeeping system that is not in line with our spaceship, but in line with short-term shareholder value?
Yeah.
That is also a story being created too. But why is it then so hard for us as a Homo sapiens to go back to what it is that actually connects us all? Because we're now artificially starting to connect.
Yeah.
We have benefits of the social networking, because that's how you find people you would not find on the street, because you networked in a different way. And that's also about stories about your profile and how people look at it. But why do we have the tendency to let the dark side of storytelling, and then we're going to neuro-linguistic programming and dogmas and the doctrine.
Doctrines, yeah.
Why do we have the tendency why do some people have a tendency to use those sort of negative aspects to rise up and turn their vision, to implement their vision on human society? And why do we not go back to storytelling? Because why I'm saying that, it's a long time ago I read the book Walkabout. I have no idea if you ever read that one.
Yeah.
I was in my 20s then. And it was about when you're Aboriginal and you want to go into manhood, you have to do it walkabout.
A rite of passage.
Your rite of passage, and you have to go out in the wilderness and find your way and implement the stories you have learned from your ancestors.
Yeah.
It's basically throwing yourself back to the stories you've been
core. Yeah.
To your core and the stories you've heard and back to the essence who you are. And that rite of passage is not existent in Europe, in the Western world, because very few people can remember the great grandparents.
Yeah, true.
And when you go to Africa or to any other country except the Western world, they know the stories 5, 6, maybe 1,000, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, which is absolutely magical.
Yeah, and it gives you the sense of belonging.
Yeah, for sure. And also your role in the whole line. Yeah.
And technology is artificially substituting that.
Yeah.
However, not giving your past, not giving you your past, which belongs to you.
Yeah.
And I have lost the track, but what I found so intensely interesting is that storytelling in the all societies. So we call them aboriginals, but I hate those words. Or we have another word for that, but I've lost that. Indigenous people. We use that word as sort of like a stigma.
Yeah, true, and it also shows somehow by words a disrespect.
Yeah,
less advanced or whatever. How we call them primitives, like primitive art or a thing, which is crazy because it just has a negative connotation.
Yeah,
it's absolutely there is more depth
in that, and maybe more elegance.
Yeah, especially and also handmade. So there is love. There is literally something created or put in.
Yeah, which requires a certain perspective of the world, and it belongs to somebody.
Yeah,
we don't know anymore. And I don't know if it would be interesting to have Rutger Bregman do a book about indigenous people and then put his moral compass to that. But that's different. That's a different association. But it's interesting that if you take that back to innovation, that looking back, this is what I experience in my practice. Looking back, most of the time gives you more insight than looking forward and just drawing the lines of where we're today and towards dystopian future. Because that's sort of like there is a group of people, a group of company who wants us to move in that direction.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they have invested interest in.
It's also a business model.
And that's what I remember. It's like about the storytelling of the human. Mm-hmm. Why was it required to have a business model around storytelling?
Yeah, crazy.
But that's what brands do. Brands have a storytelling, and then they turn it into a business model. That's sort of like sticks with me now. During our conversation, and I assume within a couple of weeks, because that, and I was triggered by your example of learning from biomimicry and how species are transformed to management principles of management organizations. So sort of this is sort of in the air. I have no idea if you can reflect on that, but it's sort of like whoa. For me at the moment.
Yeah, I think coming back to the question you just posed, why is it that people actually run the other way around or organize themselves against each other or something instead of the greater good or the planet or something? And it probably has to do something with the development of our ego. So our ego is focused on me, and I think it's our responsibility to help each other to develop into a healthy ego. Awareness is great, but if you take it too far, you start to take too much for yourself,
and then you extract.
And then you literally extract, and then you don't care about the system that much or humanity as such, but only at the one person, you, which is, I think, our biggest learning. To see that we are part of a system and there's a reason, or not really, or maybe not even a reason, but there is a need for that system to thrive or something. Because our ego, if inflated too much or too much focus, has a destructive power to it. So creative destruction
which is sort of a natural system check and balance.
True, and but somehow we are so creative again to circumvent things. So nature corrects things. If I don't know, population becomes too old, it introduces an illness to correct things. Some people see also COVID as a natural correction to deal with.
Now the measles in childcare, daycare is popping up again, which is it seems to be the natural check and balance in nature, these viruses still exist, but we have suppressed them.
Curbed them and suppressed them. So, also there, most likely we need to hit a wall a bit bigger to have our ego learn something. Yeah. Most likely through pain.
Or climate devastation.
Something like that. Yeah. That will inflict a lot of pain. And that's most likely the only way that the ego can actually learn or transcend itself.
Yeah, pain is always a slechte raadgever.
Well, I don't know. Pain is a powerful teacher, I think.
Yeah. Pain is a way to move. I think for myself, I always have to hit a wall.
Yeah, so I think that's
the natural thing.
Yeah, so you have had a carrot and stick methodology. And unfortunately, I think our ego requires more the stick than the carrot to be really to internalize the learning.
But is that ego also to do with stubbornness?
I think so for sure. Yeah,
the stubbornness and being.
The stubbornness is like the ego, like the title of my previous book, Not Invented Here, pushing out ideas from outside, because it's not invented here.
Yeah.
And that's also an ego play. And it's also stubborn. There's nothing. I'm the chief scientific officer of this company, or I'm the heart surgeon who is going to teach me anything about heart surgery. I'm the key heart surgeon here or something. So that's ego, and that's absolutely connected to stubbornness. Yeah,
closing up to incentives from the other side.
Yeah, and also not open to new.
But then love and compassion comes around, because when you understand love and compassion, you open up for new ideas.
Yeah,
and you can also always say no. I still want to move this direction, but thank you for.
Or at least being open to evaluate, and also to entertain the idea that if you're truly believing in something, that you still might be wrong. Or that there is a better way. Yeah. And some people say, but we've investigated everything and there is nothing new which is better. But sometimes you have not looked at the old thing, the even older thing that was better. And it's just new for context. It's not new to the world. Mm. And I think that's a crucial thing to see, that many ideas, many approaches are already there, yet they don't need to be new to the world. They just need to be new to you or to your context.
That is profound in a way, because it's also what I'm experiencing in my business. Mm-hmm. Putting the existing business of the existing product, whatever challenge there is, into a broader context, you mentioned it before, from a more systemic point of view, then you start to see the connections or the relationships between what you're doing with the broader context.
Yeah,
and then it becomes fluid, and then you have examples from other solutions in a different context.
Yeah,
and let's look at this. How would that fit in this context?
Yeah, you put it a little bit higher or lower on the abstraction ladder, and then you do the transformation. Because it's not copy-paste. In many cases, copy-paste doesn't really work. Computers are good at copy-pasting, but it's copy-adapt-paste. Copy-take one element, copy-transform, and then paste it.
Yeah, and then the implementation is always a hard job, because it sounds good on idea.
Yeah, well, ideas, it always sounds easy. Yeah.
You need to tweak a lot to make it happen.
Yeah. I like always when entrepreneurs being interviewed on how they or their company became so successful. And then you have these people who have these fantastic ideas on how it all happened. And I love, and for me, these are the true stories. If someone just says, I don't know, we just got lucky.
Yeah,
and of course they were prepared. Of course we had, a production facility. We had the right kind of IT. But a lot of our competitors had exactly the same thing. They were also ready, I think. But I was lucky to meet whoever it was in the, you name it, supermarket, in the train, in whatever event, and this person decided to trust me or whatever, and then this first big assignment came in, or this technology just came in, and I happened to be the person, the first one, or the name they looked for, or whatever. And I love these stories when people are truly put on a stage like, wow, this is the wonderful entrepreneur who's going to now explain us the secret formula to become successful in whatever metric it is. And that these people then are really humble and honest. They say, I have absolutely no idea.
No,
we were ready for sure, but everybody else was ready. We just got lucky.
Yeah, it's the same with Facebook and all the other examples. It's just, it clicked.
Yeah, it clicked. It was a perfect storm. A lot of things. Same thing, I guess, for the iPhone. So mobile internet was already there, and network things were there. Touch.
And then we had
Steve
Jobs and his team were there.
Yeah, and they were first developing the iPad, and then Steve Jobs said, "No, we're going to scrap that for a moment. We're going to make a phone out of this." And then.
Yeah, but that means that still the human encounter.
Yeah, and trust and.
Because then I'm just curious how AI will AI become a manufacturing company producing products we initially do not want, because that's the result of these innovations. Initially, we do not want them, and then suddenly we start to realize it is actually a substitute.
Maybe on a deeper level we want them, we do not see it in the beginning. Again, our ego blocking us from that. And now also because we are in love, addicted to our mobile phones.
We're forced to use our mobile phones because everything now is on there.
Yeah, and I think
I hate them.
Yeah, but I think the majority of people absolutely want them, huh? They don't all feel that they're being forced to do that, even though evidence is clear. Social media and everything is messing up your brains.
The last thing I read was that certain traffic lights are extracting data from mobile phones. And they can now track and trace cars. They can track and trace phones on the highways throughout the Netherlands. Yeah, because they're using the phones to
triangulate.
No, to see to understand when the traffic light has to go green or red. So they're using that data, but they're not erasing it afterwards. They're just piling it up in a database.
And I think Waze and these kind of systems. And Google with navigation and weather apps. Weather apps are absolutely terrible because they ask your location for everything. You need to know the weather in this location, and they sell their data everywhere. And so if you compile enough data, then
you can be tracked. Yeah.
We are absolutely tracked. So, and all conspiracy theories, there is something to it. So for sure, you can find evidence to that.
What is the thing you still want to do?
I want to find a way to bring, like we talked about, the rites of passage and the awareness that it starts with us as humans at a young age, to be able to guide our children, and awareness around that, to bring that knowledge, the old wisdom, further. So that's something I would still like to see what my role and purpose and contribution there could be. I used to do youth camps when I was really young, but that was the driver was the party and the excitement and the fun of doing things.
Your body full of hormones, figuring out what they wanted.
Yeah, but this was then guiding youth camps for smaller kids. Okay. So, and it's fun. And we had a lot of fun as the people who were guiding these camps in the night and everything. And I think there is something, but it's just a small developing idea together with my wife Linda, to maybe somehow facilitate these kind of camps, maybe also for parents and their children, or one parent, one child, or something, to really strengthen that kind of awareness. Maybe also something around rites of passage.
Yeah, I think that is
maybe
good.
Maybe something around awareness on how we interact, or as you also mentioned, knowing stories back multiple generations, because we start we end actually at the grandmothers and grandfathers or something, deeper or further away it hardly goes. And I think these are interesting and crucial areas to reclaim our humanity again, and also getting back in touch with nature. Who can now be sent off to a wood and make fire? We are losing crucial life skills, or even medicines, or feed yourself. If you're dumped away in a forest, can you survive? Do you know which plants and fruits to eat or which not?
We are all starting to urbanize.
Yeah, so it's also good to have a bit of a counterbalance to bring some of that knowledge.
And that's driven by your urge for survival, or what? I mean,
yeah, I think
cities are. Some people think that cities are great, and it has the.
I also think, from a cultural perspective and everything, the cities are absolutely great. I live in a city. We're also now more and more in the woods and everything to be more in touch with nature. And I think the drive is coming back after exploring a lot of things in the world, cosmopolitan kind of lifestyle. Maybe it's time also to come back and to reflect and to see that, like the arcs with biomimicry and technology, that they find each other again. And I think that's something I feel. It's not 100% crystallized, but it feels, I probably need to move in more and even more in that direction. I think also.
You want to go back, you want to come home.
Yeah, I think coming home, and then coming home with more wisdom somehow. Yeah. Knowledge and wisdom of everything that's there, and that things are indeed circular.
Thank you, Ramon.
Thank you, Alexander.
I'm pleased you took time to listen to the whole episode. Why not consider joining my Patreon to support me in creating more of these conversations? Or even rate my podcast in your favorite podcast app. Thank you again for listening, and join me next time.